Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It is 9:45 on the AM dial on a Wednesday, and you know what that means? It's time for Java with Jen. Java with Jen. Time for Java with Jen. Java with Jen. For those of you who haven't met me yet, my name's Jen Koken. I am your favorite executive leadership coach, stand-up comedian, speaker, and author. By the way, shameless plug, buy my book. And every week on Wednesdays, 9:45 a.m., I come to you with tools and tips and strategies and conversation about leadership and what it takes to be a leader and how we can be true to ourselves beyond our wildest imagination. Now, we are entering a new year, and in this new year, I'm switching things up a little bit. So we're going to have a different monthly theme. And this month, by the way, the theme is authentic power, authenticity. This is a word that has been bandied about a lot. And I find when I'm coaching clients or talking to people, what that has left us doing, I feel, is Googling it, figuring out what authenticity is, and then trying to be like what we've Googled or researched or we see other people doing. And I look at authenticity very, very simply. The root word of authenticity, and by the way, the title of my book, Make Imposter Syndrome Your Superpower, the ultimate guide for women in STEM to lead with more authority, influence, and impact, you'll see the word authority has the same root word as authenticity. That root word is 4 letters, AUTH, and that is the Greek word for self. So when we have authority, we have natural confidence. When we have natural confidence, we're being true to ourselves. That's authenticity. The question always is then asked of me, well, I just want to be myself. People say that to me when I'm coaching them. How do I get there? That's the question that's asked of me. And that takes some introspection. That takes some work. As far as I can tell, it's a lifelong process of what is it to be true to ourselves, because circumstances change and we change and our values shift and our wants, our needs, and desires. What I want to make sure you understand is that authenticity, I have a piece of hair under my nose that drives me crazy. Okay. What I want to make sure you understand is that authenticity is whatever you deem it to be. You don't have to Google it. You don't have to be like some list of attributes. If being joyful is true for you and that feels right in your body and it feels light, if it's right, it's light. If it's heavy, it's wrong. That feels light in your body, be joyful. And I brought up that very, very word because today I have a very, very special guest and I want to bring her in. So give me a momentito and let me bring my friend Shannon on here. All righty. We're going to go back up here and hopefully we can get rid of this book. Also, we're going to try to figure out how to add a little scene. So it's just the two of us. There we go. Yes, there we go. Woo! Welcome, Shannon Hernandez, to Java with Jen.
Java with Jen. Java with Jen.
I like your owl. Did you paint that?
I did. It was one of my very first big paintings when I was reclaiming my joy around my creativity.
Oh, I love it because I feel like I keep having this piece of fuzz that's like, I feel like that the owl is a little bit punky, like it has sort of like punk rock hair.
Yeah, it's actually the Joyful Business Revolution owl. If you look at the colors in it, it's got the gold and the teal and the purple hair.
I love it. Well, before you get into that, I want to introduce who you are. So I am really, really pleased. Shannon and I go way, way back. Let me give you the official bio, and then let me give you my unofficial bio, my friend and colleague bio. So meet Shannon Hernandez. She is the go-to expert for mission-driven, heart-centered business owners ready to achieve sustainable growth. Known as the queen of organic marketing, I can attest to that. Shannon is the creator of the Content Personality Wheel and founder of the Joyful Business Revolution, where she empowers coaches and consultants to amplify their message, their impact with organic marketing strategies. I'm going to say that one more time. She empowers coaches and consultants to amplify their organic. My God, why am I stumbling over this? She's the founder of the Joyful. We're just going to cut this part out and clip it. That's what we're going to do. She's founder of the Joyful Business Revolution, where she empowers coaches and consultants to amplify their impact with organic marketing strategies that attract deeply aligned audiences and build deep community connections. With 25 plus years of award-winning experience, collaborations with the NFL, US military, and featured on CBS, ABC, Fox, and NBC, Shannon is a proven leader. Her programs help entrepreneurs grow their businesses while prioritizing joy, diversity, and inclusion. So let's give Shannon a round of applause. This is what we do. We do a round of applause. So happy to have you here, Shannon. And I met Shannon 4 years ago now. 4?
Probably 4, maybe close to 5.
Maybe 5 years ago. And I was at a point in my business where I was not having fun. Things were like a lot of work. I felt like drudgery. And we are part of the same networking group called the Dames. And I'll put a little link in the bio about that, or in the notes about that. But when I began to work with her, she always had one question. And she said to me, like, tell me what you do all day, and tell me how your day looks, and tell me what you're focusing on, and tell me, does that bring you joy? Does that bring you joy? And it really, Shannon, made me sit back. And I will never forget where I said something. You're like, well, when do you eat lunch? And I was like, lunch? Like stand at the sink and shove a salad in my mouth. Does that bring you joy? No. No. And then for me, one of my core values became having fun. And so that then became the litmus test. Am I having fun standing at the sink, eating a salad? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I'm so excited about what I'm doing. I run out, eat my lunch, and I'm like dancing around, ready to get back to what I'm doing. And then I began also taking Fridays off, or at least 2:00 on. That was when the day ended, because that was fun. That brought me joy. So I want to start off, because this whole month, right? I'm so happy to have you here. This whole month is about authenticity and authentic power. What is it to be true to ourselves? So can you start us off just by sharing with us your joy journey? And I definitely want you to give a shameless plug to your book as well while you're doing it.
I'm looking around. I don't even have a book up here to show, but it's okay.
I might have one on my shelf over here. I have to find it.
So thank you, Jen. Thanks for having me. I would say my joy journey started, I've thought about this a lot, because it's actually a question I get asked because of the book more and more. And when I really think back, it was age 7. And it's such an interesting thing to think about, like, how was I already thinking about joy at age 7? But oftentimes I think the things that we want most come from what we might not have at the time, right? And so I was in this relationship of what would joy look like for me as a 7-year-old, right? There were 4 siblings of us. It was a crazy busy time. We lived in a really rural, precisely between a cornfield and bean field. I did not feel like I belonged there at age 7. And that was something really heavy to carry through all the years of schooling and high school and college, until I just finally left. I'm like, this place is not bringing me joy, this physical location, right, in rural Illinois. So it's been a journey. And I would say everyone's joy is a journey, because there may be things that bring you joy this past year that you're letting go, and you're going to try some new things in the new year, right? And so that's where my joy journey began. And I'm still on the journey, because I believe joy is a choice, and joy is a practice, just like our getting on our yoga mat, or taking that walk every morning at 8 a.m. It's a practice that you cultivate.
Yeah. And how, when it comes to leadership, particularly when it comes for executive women in STEM, in these male-dominated industries, we feel like we've got to prove ourselves more. We've got to work harder. We've got to figure out how to stay visible all the time. Why is it so important for women at any level, but particularly when they begin to rise into those senior leadership positions? Why is it so important for women to find joy, to cultivate joy? And I loved what you said about practice it. So that's going to be my next question.
Yeah. Well, I think as women in, male dominated fields, or in caregiver roles, or in mother, right? Like, some of us are caring now for our parents. It's like a whole not joyful thing. Like, I can speak to that. Nobody prepared me for this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? And then the people that have relationships at work, and we have these societal expectations. What it comes down to is joy helps you, even in the most difficult times, reclaim your sense of self, right? And I think it's really important because as women, we have a lot like invisible load, right? We're carrying a lot of stuff that people just think is normal. We think is normal because it's always how it's been. But this in and of itself, I think, is why there's a cry for joy. And I'll call it a rebellion. Like, I think it's an act of rebellion for us to say, you know what? Yeah, work can be hard, and trying to move up this ladder when this male dominated space is hard, and me running $1 million business is hard, and caring for my parents is hard. And I can still take a moment to connect for my own self-care and well-being every single hour, if that's what it takes.
I love that. And particularly because you're right, when women are in these leadership roles, a lot of times they won't be thought of initially or elevated to that role because, well, I actually have a client who we were talking. She's amazing. She's going to be doing a whole session on decoding the boardroom because she's she's at the top of her game, but she had a grandbaby. And the other men on her board, because she is the only woman, and the board, of course, hire her, right? The other men were like, well, you're going to retire now? She was like, I'm not daycare. Like, I had a grandbaby. Are you going to retire? Did you retire? It's just so interesting, these invisible pressures, right? And I don't know that other people understand or can, unless they're a woman, feel like they're in our shoes about being that sandwich generation now, particularly caring. Maybe the kids have moved back home after you thought they were out, or if you're like, I think you and I never had kids by choice and now caring for parents at the same time, it's a lot. And how do you have joy in those moments where you just want to crawl into the cupboard and eat Twizzlers in the dark? Oh, sorry. Oops.
Such an unhealthy choice.
Or candy corn at, Halloween because it's on sale. So how can somebody choose joy in those really dark moments?
Well, I've got some insight on this. So the very first thing is, I think we have to treat our joy as a practice, right? And the practice is, one, your joy. A lot of people just don't know this. The reason I wrote this book, Practical Joy, was because there was a lot of things being said about joy. It's connected to your religion. It's connected to your spirituality. It's connected to meditation. It's connected to gratitude. And while those things may be true, what it was missing, the dialogue that was missing in the space, is our joy is very personal and it's connected to our values. So I was raised Catholic, right? If I had not walked away from the Catholic Church, I would not be on a path of joy. That none of that shit brought me joy, right? And I knew that from a very young age. So I use that as an example because a lot of people say, oh, well, when you have God or when you have religion or when you have spirituality, you will have joy. When you have gratitude. Well, I think this is one of those both and or no but situations. And so cultivating a joy practice that's meaningful to you means that you are connected to the values that are most important to you right now, right? So for years, one of my values was coffee with art. I was learning how to doodle, right? I literally how to draw stick people before this owl came into being. And that served me for a while because I was in that learning phase. I was calm in the morning. My mind was clear. Now my joy is actually doing art after dinner to calm down my brain with a video tutorial, right? Because I needed more instruction, but I needed that instruction not to happen in the morning. I'd be drawing all day long and get nothing done in my business, right? So that's a very practical example of building in those joy practices, but it's important that the practices align with the values that you hold.
That is really, really cool and interesting and amazing. And I love that. That's brilliant, because I was going to ask you, how does a person discern joy for themselves? Because we do have it in a box, but you just answered all those questions. So if you were to give people one tool today to practice joy, or to, I'm saying find your joy, but it's an internal game, right?
Yeah.
What would be your one or two key tips for people before we end the show?
Yeah. Great. I'd say the number one thing is to make a list. I do this with my clients. Make a list. Everything that you would always find the time for, and everything you'd always find the money for, right? Just make that simple list on a piece of paper in 2 columns, because what's going to emerge there is your values. So I will always find the time to exercise. I will always find the time to cook dinner, and I will always find the money for healthy food. That's just an example, right, of what would show up on my list. So then I go into my day knowing that my values are health, my values are healthy eating and healthy lifestyle. I build the joy practices in. Maybe it's a walk in the morning with my favorite podcast, right? Or maybe it's a journal session in the morning or in the evening to do my gratitude. What was my gratitude for the day, right? So it's marrying the values with the micro joy practices to build out and cultivate this joyful life.
I love it. So make a list, 2 columns. What will I always find the money for? What will I always find the time for? And then where those 2 things intersect will tell you your values. And now those are the things that are going to bring you joy. And then you build in micro practices. And I think for those people watching, the micro practices are important, because most of the folks that watch this show are high achievers, always going, want to do the next thing. And I think sometimes that's to our detriment, because we have this big grandiose idea of what those practices are. So micro practices. Awesome. And Shannon, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to buy your book, where do they find you? Where do they find you?
Yeah, you can find me. The book information is housed at practicaljoybook.com. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at joyfulbusinessrevolution.com.
You heard it here first. We'll put that in the show notes too. Shannon Hernandez, thank you so much for joining us for Java with Jen and Shannon, Java with Jen and Shannon, Java with Jen. All right, friends, tune in next week, 9:45 on the AM dial here on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Insta, wherever you watch live videos of amazing people talking about amazing things. And we will continue this theme for the month of authenticity. And remember, find your joy. Find your joy. It's inside. It's right there. There's no place like joy. All right, everybody. Ciao, ciao. It's right here.